So cell number 2 is the green line, cell number 6 is the blue line. And these were exactly the two cells which were the outliers here. Just repeating again what we have observed in one of the recent videos when we compared the 4 Yixiang cells EVE LF280K, and we found that 2 of the cells of the 4 tested are actually increasing in voltage a lot earlier than the other ones. Yeah, the other ones are going flat, and then here at a bit over 3.4 volts we see a sharp increase in voltage, while the other ones are gradually increasing the voltage. And this is something we have not observed before. And Up North in Personal left a comment and said he has seen this before. It may have something to do because these cells are so new, they haven't been cycled enough to fully chemically establish whatever magic happens in these boxes. Well, we don't know, right? So they need a couple of cycles to actually follow the usual path of a flat charge curve and then a steep incline in voltage at the end. And this is what we are going to find out in this video. I have put all the 16 cells into this Yixiang do-it-yourself box. We are at 54.7 volts, so we're almost fully charged. For a couple of days the JK BMS actually shows 100% because it hasn't been calibrated yet. Cell voltages, we don't have to look at this crooked display. So I have connected this BMS now via Bluetooth to the Batmon Home Assistant integration. Exactly, it connects via Bluetooth every 30 seconds, reads all the information, all the cell voltages, everything the JK BMS has to offer. I just made this very quick dashboard here to show us the overall battery voltage, the overall current going in or out of the battery, the state of charge, how high is the balance current at the moment, and what is the delta between all these 16 cells. Then we have the maximum cell voltage, which cell number it is, right? And the same for the minimum voltage and what cell number it is. And we have to pay attention on number 2, 6, 11, 15. These were the 4 we have tested before, and number 2 and 6 showed this strange behavior. Weird, right?
She actually called me weird.
So we want to especially pay attention to these 4 cells now, and especially if cell number 2 and 6 are showing any increased voltage here while we are charging. Guys, before I forget again, welcome back to the off-grid garage here in sunny hot Australia. We had some rain the last couple of days, but now the wind is back, of course. I should put something on the roof which actually generates energy from wind. But we are going to have 27 degrees outside today, which is 120 amps. As you have seen before, we charged the battery with 5 kilowatt already. Lots of power coming in. And you can see the shading from the trees. Yeah? A couple of weeks ago, it was halfway these solar panels. Now it is halfway the driveway already. So the sun is really going up in angle. The shadow is slowly moving in again. And in summertime, the shadow will be, here somewhere. Very close to the garage. So at the moment we have only 42 amps outside, but I'm taking full advantage of the sun and charging the Tesla. Miss Andy and I are going for a little trip tomorrow. So I'm sucking in all this solar power now into the vehicle, and we drive on pure sunshine tomorrow. There's no better feeling, guys. Yeah, I'm actually charging the Tesla from an extension cable here because I still have not commissioned the Tesla, what is it called? Wall connector. We will do this in one of the next videos together with the Victron charging station and have a look how their commissioning process is. And then we can start charging both electric vehicles from that. But for the moment the extension cable, that's what I use. So now I open the Home Assistant website with Firefox, and it also shows us the graph down here. I don't know why it doesn't work with Edge. So you can see the flat curve here. You can see all the voltages are coming together during the night. Then there was a bit of charge this morning. Then I stopped charging because I wanted to have this on camera. So I just turned on the charge MOSFETs again. We can see the voltages are rising fast, so we must be very close to 100% state of charge. And if we click on this little arrow here, it gives us a better overview actually what is going on. Especially when we select just today, 11 o'clock until, that's fine. So we can really zoom into these graphs now, and we can see here they're all sitting there, and then I turned on the charge MOSFETs. There was a bit of interruption, because I was logged in with a mobile phone still, so the Batmon integration could not get any data. But now you can hear the beeping already. So every 30 seconds we're getting new data published here to the Home Assistant installation. Yeah, and hovering our mouse above the voltage curves here. See the green curve? This is cell number 3, 3.43 volts. And we can do the same down here. And this is our cell number 15. One of the 4 ones we have tested in the last test. And after doing a full charge and discharge initially, I brought the cells all back to 100 ampere hours of capacity. That's where all the cells were delivered with. So they should be roughly in the same area again as they were when I got them out of the boxes. But there could be 1, 2, 3 ampere hours missing, I don't know. Let's quickly log into the JK BMS. And we may already see the balancer kicking in as well, because one of the cells may hit the 3.45 volts. At the moment it looks like cell number 3 is fairly high and number 15 is fairly low. But the active balancer of the JK BMS will take care of that, right? And we have a cell voltage difference here of 46 millivolts at the moment. But we are charging at 14 amps, so shouldn't take too long to reach 3.45. And then we start the absorption phase. So we stay on 3.45 volts for 2 hours, give the balancer enough time to top balance this battery. And then we increase the voltage a bit more to a 3.55, 3.6 even, to really top balance this battery before we start our testing. Alright, let's keep charging this battery. I'll be back if something interesting happens here, which will be in a second for you. Okay, see you then. Just before I go to lunch, I can see cell number 5 is actually the highest with 3.45 volts, and the balancer has now kicked in. We've got 52 millivolt deviation still, so, and cell number 15 is at 3.4, needs to catch up a little bit, but we're still charging with 18 amps as well. But yeah, balancer is working now, doing all my top balancing automatically. Thanks. So guys, I'm back from lunch and we're still charging 15 amps, 55.2 volts. We have reached our maximum charge voltage. 3.49, cell number 12. And if we click on the cell number 12 here, we get actually an overview what cells have been the highest voltage cells over the last, I think, 24 hours or so. Now you can see every color represents a different cell. Crazy, right? Is that light too bright here? It reflects from the silver metal from the other shed. So obviously this doesn't tell us much, but if we click on show more, we can do the same trick. We can zoom into this bar. Yeah, this gives us a much better overview. So the green cell here is pretty much the highest cell down here. Green, green for most of the time. But then here it changed. Cell number 5, cell number 3. And now it's cell number 12. And 12 is one of the cells we have tested before. And here it changes so often because the charge curves are so flat and all the 16 cells are so close together with their voltages. It changes all the time basically, but Home Assistant takes care of that and maps this on this graph, on this line. Alright, we want to have a look at these cell voltages as well. So it looks like only cell number 12 is actually rising in voltage. Look at this while we are charging. All the other ones are still flat. They are still absorbing the energy. But it's very interesting how Home Assistant maps this graph for all these 16 cells fully automatically for us. It's so convenient. So obviously at the moment we have 156 millivolt deviation between cell number 12 and cell number 15. We just need to wait for the balancer to sort this out. So it may take a couple of hours to actually top balance this battery. I don't know how many ampere hours are missing from cell number 15 to cell number 12. It could be a few ampere hours. And even with the active balancer, it will take hours to fully top balance this battery. But on the other hand, we've got all the time of the world and it does it all fully automatically for us. We don't need to do anything. The cell voltage now is rising to 3.55 in cell number 12. We go back into our voltage graph. Yeah, we can see this here. So it's really rising, rising, rising because we are still charging with 14, 15 amps. So this voltage will increase now fast. And then we hit 3.65 volts and the JK BMS will stop charging altogether and report an error to the servo. Or an alarm, I should say an alarm, right? The 2 amp active balancer of the JK BMS is not enough to counter a 13 amp charge into the same batteries. Of course not. But that's fine. We leave it running I'll be back later this afternoon and we have a look at the result. Maybe it will be tomorrow when everything is fully charged. I don't know. All these tests taking a long time. That's what it is. Alright, you have a wonderful afternoon. See you later. Guys, welcome back to the Off-Grid Garage here after, well, I think it's close to a week now since I did the last video clips here on this video. But it took so long to fully charge this battery. We had not the best weather for the pool fan system, so it took quite a long time. But finally, we are now fully charged. For the last 2 days or so, I have replaced the pool fan solar with this little power supply there. So I'm charging the battery manually. And the reason was because some of the cells have already peaked to 3.65 volts and the JK BMS has always turned off. And then it took like an hour and a half until the cells came down with the voltage and the JK BMS kicked back in and allowed further charging. Just to turn off again. You will see this in a minute. So it just took forever to fully charge this battery then. And with the power supply I could charge on a constant voltage 24/7, which took another 2 days to then fully charge and fully top balance the battery. So I have set the power supply to 55.7, 55.8 volts and we are still charging with around 30 to 40 milliamps into the battery here. You can hear the beeping every 10 seconds or so. This is when Home Assistant logs into the JK BMS and grabs the data from it. Okay, let's have a look how it looks like. So here's the dashboard I especially made for the Yixiang do-it-yourself battery kit with the Yixiang EVE LF280K cells inside. So the BMS claims we've got a voltage of 55.86 volts, 0 amps obviously going in, 99.9% state of charge, and the balancer is off because we are under 10 millivolt delta for all these 16 cells. Yeah, highest cell 3.5 volts, lowest cell 3.49 volts. And here you can see the graph for the last 24 hours. You can see how the cells coming together. The high voltage cells came down and the cells with the lower voltage finally charged up, and then they're all met between these 10 millivolt deviation we set in the BMS. And this is what the BMS now holds forever, basically. So let's dig into this graph a little bit more. So the last week looked like this, basically. So we started here at 3.3 volts and charged, and then there was an interruption with the Batmon system again for whatever reason. And then you can see we are charging, and then during the night we're not charging. During the day we are charging, cell voltage rising a bit, peaking, not charging. Yeah, and then here we can see single cells are already spiking. Yeah, we've got here cell number 12 is peaking at 3.65 volts here at the top. And down here you can see the lower voltage cells, like cell number 15, for example, they are still at 3.3 volts. Yeah, so a huge gap in between these batteries, which was expected because we have tested 4 of the batteries and they never recharged to the same level as they were before. But this is what the BMS's balancer is now doing, so it pushes them all together again. Yeah. And the next day again, huge spike, then there was nothing, huge spike, and then voltage goes down. And then I got the shits and put the power supply on, and we saw this interesting construct here, which I have zoomed in for you already here. Yeah, so this is the beginning when I connected the power supply, yeah. And I think I set it only to probably 1.5 amps or something. So 55.8 volts and 1.5 amps only. And we can still see here cell number 12 is spiking to 3.65 volts. And then obviously the BMS turns off. Voltage goes down for all the cells, even the ones with a lower voltage here. You can see how the curves all go down because the BMS has turned off. Then it waits until the voltages are coming down, turns back on. Cell number 12 peaks again. BMS turns off, yeah, and repeat, repeat, repeat. And then interestingly here, cell number 15, this yellow line, actually increased in voltage as well, yeah? And slowly with every cycle creeped up, and then it finally matched actually cell number 12. So 12 and 15 are in line with these peaks now, with these spikes, yeah? While all the other cells are still down here and cycling, yeah? They're getting a bit of energy every cycle from the power supply. But obviously the BMS's balancer in the JK pushes 2 amps, takes 2 amps from these high voltage cells up here and puts them in the lower voltage cells all the time, 24/7. Yeah, this is close to 20 hours or so it took to fully charge this battery. And from here you can see that the lower voltage cells slowly ramping up here. The curves are slowly going up. You can see the trend here of these peaks up here to up here. Yeah, they're slowly going up. So there wasn't too much capacity missing actually, because it took only like 18, 20 hours or so to fully balance the battery. But still we had some of the cells obviously peaking at 3.65 volts. And then we can see the purple, what is that? Cell number 2. Okay, cell number 2 rising in voltage as well and slowly matching the number 15 and number 12, which were already peaking in sync. And this one basically matches them as well. And then all the other cell voltages are rising as well. And I think at this point I lowered the current here to only 1 amp or 800 milliamps or something, because I wanted to avoid this peaking all the time, this 3.65 volts for these 4 cells. At this point here we had like 3 or 4 cells, 2, 12, 15, yeah, 3 cells here already, which were at 3.65 volts. And the JK can only discharge one of them at the time, yeah. So the likelihood that we hit 3.65 with any of these 3 cells is much higher than with only 1 cell. So I lowered the current again to 800 milliamps or something. And that's where you can see all the other cells, they actually lowered in voltage because the charging current was so slow. And at this point you are more reliant on the balancer because it pushes 2 amps from these cells up here down into these cells. But eventually here they caught up and slowly rose in voltage again. 3.45 volts we have already. And with such a small charging current, these cells are fully absorbed already, basically. And then the JK was actually managing to lower the voltage of all these 3 cells up here. You can see the curve goes down, voltage lowers, and this voltage rises until, well, and this is exactly the graph here you have seen at the beginning where the voltages are coming down and now they are hovering here at 3.5 volts roughly. Yeah, we are within 7 millivolt deviation, so that is super cool. So now that we are almost top balanced here, I want to increase the voltage to a 3.6 volts and let the battery charge a bit. So we will see all the cells, they should creep up again. Maybe the deviation will go over 10 millivolt again. So the balancer will kick in and balance this all out, but it shouldn't take long. And then we should be at 3.6 volts. And that is what I would call fully top balanced then. So we don't go any further. Increase the voltage to 3.6, I say. That should be at around 57.4 volts or so. That's fine. That's close enough. Okay, reconnect the power supply again to the main positive bus bar. And we can actually bump up the current now to full 5 amps. Yeah, we can already see that here reflecting in the current for 4 amps. And now cell voltages should rise. Okay, I'm just logging in with the app here because this gives us a live view what's going on. So 4.1 amps we are charging the battery with at the moment. The Home Assistant data is a bit delayed. Could be up to a minute or so, because with Home Assistant I'm rather looking at the medium and long-term data. But the JK BMS obviously gives us a view about the current situation here. So we can see the balancer has kicked in there, 2 amps. The delta is 10 millivolt, 9 millivolt now. We are rising the voltage to 57 volts. So all the cells are now caught up and in line with each other. 10 millivolt deviation. Okay, give this a few minutes here and then I'll be back and we have a quick look. Okay, my friends, I have now increased the voltage to 57.4 and then 57.6. You can see it here in the graph. All the cells have followed. We are just over 3.62, 3.61 here for the lowest. So that is perfect. And they're all within 10 millivolt delta. Okay, in the next step, we wanna, of course, fully capacity test these cells here as a battery. Yeah, they are EVE LF280K, and because these have all measured so high, they should in theory bring around 290-300 ampere hours at least. I have already connected the Victron Smart Shunt test, and we will turn on the Phoenix inverter here to dump all the load into the off-grid system. Probably connect the vehicle as well and charge directly Then we can turn on the hot water and the pool pump as well. So we will get rid of these 15 kilowatt hours, right? All right, we also have to disconnect the solar from the outside, otherwise we are recharging from the pool fence system. So I'm disconnecting solar, MPPT turns off. I'm missing out on this pure sunshine weather today, but that's how it is. I think we will have more sunshine tomorrow, so doesn't matter. I've also reset the smart shunt. History, everything is 0. And I've turned off the low voltage disconnect of the Phoenix inverter, so this turns off at 39 volt or something. But before that, one of the cells will hit 2.5 volts and the JK-BMS will disconnect them with an under voltage protection. But let me check the settings again in the BMS. Cell UVP 2.5 and then recovery at 2.8. So this is all good. I think we are ready to go. What else do we need to do? Okay, we are at 100%. The Phoenix should kick in any second. There it is. And now we are discharging. We are at 36 amps now. Okay, the smart shunt claims 7 hours 38 minutes. We are now, so this will be around 7:30, 8 p.m. I will be back in the garage with the result of this interesting test here. So let's see how far we come. All right, if anything happens in between, I'll turn on the camera again. All right, see you in the PM. So I'm also watching the JK-BMS here for a moment to ensure that the cell with the red color, so the one with the lowest voltage, is actually changing across all the batteries. It's not sticking to one cell. We don't have one low cell battery all the time, because this could indicate of a problem with the bus bars, with the connections, with the cell itself. But it seems to be jumping all over the place, so this is good. Number 3 now. So that looks perfect to me. All right, let's keep going. And of course we will have Home Assistant to take all the data during this discharge test, and we will finally see which cells are actually performing better than others in terms of voltage. So it will be interesting to see the discharge curve of all the 16 cells after 7 hours. As so often before, it is a late night show. Welcome back, guys. Okay, we have got a red low voltage alarm on the Phoenix inverter. Everything else is still running fine. Okay, SPET calibration center. We are at 0.0%, the JK-BMS cells. The smart shunt tells us 94 volts, yeah, 41 amps discharging, and history 278 ampere hours so far at 14.4 kilowatt hours. And we have a look at our Home Assistant curve. Yeah. Just getting lower and lower and lower. And now we can see all these cells are spreading apart. Yeah, you can see how it feathers out. Okay, it looks like we are just under 3 or just at 3 volts with the lowest voltage cell, and the highest is at 3.1. So 120 millivolt deviation at the moment. So here I want to zoom in into the whole curve since we started the test at 3.3 volts here. So I cannot see any. Here's cell number 8, a bit lower, which is always the lowest, and we haven't touched cell number 8 at all. So here at the moment I would say there's nothing to see. Okay, we want to have a look at the discharge curve again of these 4 cells we have tested before. And we can already see here at 3.25 volts how the green and the yellow line are a bit lower than the other 2 lines, right? And we can even better see it here just below 3.2 volts. But having a look at these 16 discharge curves, I cannot see that cell number 2 or 6 are actually lower than the other ones. There's cell number 8 and then cell number 9. There's even 12 in here, 8. There's no number 2 and number 6 in here. So from this perspective, it looks like it is fairly even. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, cell number 9 is fighting with the green one, which is cell number 7. These are our lowest cells at the moment. Okay, we are just under 48 volts now. So give it another minute or so, and then we should have a result. We have discharged 283 ampere hours and 14.6 kilowatt hours out of these cells. So not bad, and they are still going strong. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, that may not be accurate anymore. Batmon has not pulled any data for the last 3 minutes or so for whatever reason. But that's fine. As long as our smart shunt here is running, we can see the overall voltage, and the history is 289 ampere hours so far. So 15 kilowatt hours, huh? That's a number. And I just had a look at the graphs here again. And down here I can read all the 4 cells. They had close to 290 ampere hours. This was our cell number 15, which is now our highest voltage cell in the pack. And all the other ones, they are at 297, 284 and 294. So far above these 280 ampere hours rated. Yeah, I'm not sure why the Batmon integration does not pull the BMS anymore. We only have a flat line here. There's no new data. I haven't heard any beep. That's just what it is sometimes. It just doesn't connect. And we solely rely on the Victron Smart Shunt now, 42 volts. Oh, it just came through. There it is. So we should see all the data here again. Yep, now it pulls again for whatever reason. It does it. Okay, so 15 and 7. 7 is very close to 2.56 volts. So we will have a shutdown every second. Not sure if the Smart Shunt survives here. 291.8 ampere hours so far. And exactly 15 kilowatt hours. Wow. Sure, the BMS will turn off any moment. 2.52. Cell number 7. This would be the one. 2.507. This is data coming from the JK BMS. Bang. There it was. Has turned off. So was it 292 ampere hours roughly or something? I'll put a screenshot here of the Victron Smart Shunt on the screen. Okay, I just turned on the small power supply for the battery to recharge it a bit. Deviation was the highest here at 380 millivolts, so not too bad. And cell number 15 was at 2.89 volts as the lowest. And then obviously cell number 7 was the lowest with 2.5 volts then turning off. So this was the whole spread. Guys, so far I cannot see any strangeness here, any strange stuff in this these curves. They all look very good so far. Yeah, but watching the 16 voltage curves here was only one task of this experiment. We also wanted to have a discharge number for these batteries to see how they work as a battery in comparison to single cells. And yeah, they deliver over 290 ampere hours, which is close to 15.1 kilowatt hours. So a pretty good result. I will now recharge this battery again from the pool fence system. So this will take probably a week. I know, right? So there will be another video with the charge curves. You want to have a look at the 16 charge curves when we fully charge this battery all the way up to 56, 57 volts or something again. So 3.55, 3.6 volts. Want to see if we can see any outliers which are rising in voltage a bit earlier than others. So, and then compare this with the curves we have done with the CKE tester, with the Chinese cracker. I have just updated our subscriber count. 400 subscribers more since the last video. Oh God. Now, thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for your amazing support here on the channel, bringing us to 100,000 subscribers. And regardless what you do, if you buy me a beer or a coffee or click on the thanks button or become a channel member or just leave a nice and kind comment under the videos, this all makes these videos possible, as you know. So thank you very much for your overall support. And until the next video, guys, when we finally commission the 2 vehicle charging stations, because I'm still living out of extension cables here to charge the vehicles. It's just not great at the moment. So I really need these charging stations up and running, commissioned, and then we can nicely charge the vehicles and fill them with freshly made sunshine. Guys, until then, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye-bye. Yeah, there it is. The Yixiang do-it-yourself box. You can't see shit anymore. I'm really good with lighting. And this was the test of the EVE LF280K, measured with 292 ampere hours as a battery all delivered from Yixiang in China.